Chapter 996 Netherworld Undead. The incarnation of disaster, the source of plague, the Hell Horse. It has only 3 legs, symbolizing disease, famine, and death. The dark body exudes a dirty and stinking smell, and the head is a pale skull. Hellsister summoned it, and it let out a shrill neigh, and then it rushed towards the Mirage Dragon in the air with endless venom. The Mirage Dragon roared and spit out dragon flames. However, the venom of the Hell Horse was like a huge wave. In such an environment where the toxins are almost endless, Hellsister's combat power also soared. Instead of falling into a disadvantage in the confrontation with the Sky Dragon King, there is a subtle advantage of controlling the overall situation. The dragon and the horse began to fight fiercely. The Mirage Dragon spit out dragon flames, easily tearing off half of the body of the Hell Horse. But the stinking venom that splashed out also corroded the steel-like shell on the surface of the Mirage Dragon. The Sky Dragon King's eyes became more cautious. Such a terrible toxin, even if he has a body of steel, he definitely doesn't want to touch it. So, he chose to take the initiative by attacking from a distance. With his dragon roar, spherical lightnings fell from the sky and hit Hellsister. But Hellsister was not in a hurry. He stretched out his hand and pressed a button on his arm. Click. 2 rows of small shoulder cannons popped out of his shoulders, aiming at the spherical lightning in the air, and began to fire continuously. Boom. 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 Microshells made of special materials also have special effects on supernatural energy. Those spherical lightnings are indeed very fast, but the combat uniforms are equipped with intelligent combat systems that can lock targets for attack. In a sense, this is a low-profile version of precision shooting. Hellsister put his hands down, and the pool of venom formed by the rain under his feet began to surge. A huge poisonous dragon soared into the sky and attacked the body of the Dragon King. The Dragon King's face turned green. Hellsister's behavior was obviously deliberately disgusting him. He opened his mouth and spit out a raging dragon flame, which quickly evaporated the poisonous dragon. But at this moment, something strange happened to the other members of the pirate group. The disaster soldiers were frozen by Bai Lian with frost. Bai Lian originally thought that the problem was temporarily under control, but he didn't expect that the disaster soldiers would directly explode. As their bodies exploded, they turned into sticky and smelly venom and dark green poisonous fog. There was no wind-attributed alien among them, and the only one who could suppress the poisonous fog, the Dragon King, was not in front of him. So soon someone else was hit. If they were contaminated with anything, their simple combat uniforms would be corroded. And the inferior gas masks could not last too long in Hellsister's poisonous fog. Once the purification material began to fail, death was waiting for them. The gap between the miscellaneous army and the regular army was completely different in terms of weapons and equipment. However, Hellsister looked indifferent and did not have any happy or proud reaction to this. He is good at using poison, and he is in such an environment. As long as the opponent is not particularly strong, there is not much difference between 101 for him. Especially when he is bullying, he has no opponent here. Billy the Kid needs to change the bullets for the goldfinch after killing someone. But he has an endless supply of ammunition here. Although the Dragon King saw the miserable state of his subordinates, he had no way to go back to support at this time. Facing an opponent of the level of Hellsister, any distraction could kill him. But how to win? The Dragon King was also caught in a huge dilemma. His strongest ability is close combat. In the ocean, he is also particularly powerful with the body of the Dragon King. But the guy in front of him made him not want to get close at all. However, just when the Dragon King hesitated, he suddenly felt his sight shaking. A feeling of sleepiness and fatigue instantly enveloped him. The Dragon King opened his eyes suddenly. He stared at Hellsister, and his body instantly retreated hundreds of meters away. Then he growled, "When did you poison me?" The abnormality of his body made him realize immediately that he was poisoned. But Hellsister did not answer his question. The answer is not difficult. The means of the Dragon King can only resist tangible toxins, but not intangible toxins. The Hell Horse is a poisonous beast he created with his own gastric juice. As a carrier of the plague, every cell in Hellsister's body contains deadly toxins. The reason why he wrapped himself tightly and wore a gas mask was not to protect himself, but to protect others. Otherwise, anyone who came into contact with him would be poisoned in the shortest time and die painfully. And when the Dragon King's Mirage Dragon tore the Hell Horse to pieces, the deadly toxins on it spread into the air. With the breath, it entered the Dragon King's body. Hellsister took off his gas mask, revealing his face that was corroded by toxins and twisted like a ghost. It was a face that was difficult to describe in words. The whole face was pale, like a corpse that had been soaked in water for half a month. There was not a single strand of hair, and the skin around the lips, nose, and eyes had been corroded clean. The flesh on the face was twisted, and the facial features were casually placed on a face like a 3-year-old child's building blocks. "Kill the dead souls of the netherworld," he said, and spit out a large pool of disgusting mucus. Fine needles protruded from the combat uniform, pierced the skin, and then brown blood flowed out. The liquid flowed into the pool of venom under his feet, and in a moment, the pool of venom was dyed a rich dark brown. One after another, the poisonous monsters crawled out of the poison pool like a nightmare, roaring and rushing towards the Dragon King and his subordinates. The Dragon King was frightened by the scene in front of him. Even though he had experienced many bloody storms, had he ever seen such a creature like a hellish devil? The feeling of extreme discomfort in his body was still spreading. He forcibly used his strong physique and supernatural powers to suppress it, but he couldn't help but shed a stream of black poisonous blood from the corner of his mouth. "We can't continue to fight. This battle is completely unequal." The Dragon King realized this and decisively swung his tail in the air and ran towards Bai Lian and others. At this time, the other people in the pirate group were not feeling well. Although they were not facing Hellsister, but only the disaster soldiers he created. But the erosion of the toxins has corroded many of them into skeletons. Bai Lian used the power of frost to condense into a gorgeous frost armor on himself and resisted the erosion of the toxins. Chapter 997 Hidden Dragon in the Abyss. Hellsister alone beat the entire Tianlong pirates into a mess. Even the Tianlong king had no good way to fight with Hellsister. He was a ruthless man, but in the face of the absolute gap in strength, the mad courage had no value. The Tianlong king's eyes were cold and terrifying. If he risked being poisoned, he would definitely have a chance to get close to Hellsister and try to kill him. But now he has been exposed to the sight of the Columbia Navy. Even if he killed Hellsister, he could not escape the fate of death. After thinking again and again, the Tianlong king made a decision. He blocked Hellsister's attack with his Mirage Dragon clone, then turned around in the air and ran towards the group. At this time, every member of the Tianlong pirates was particularly tormented. Some people had half of their bodies eroded by the poison, becoming half human and half ghost monsters, which looked terrible. Without saying a word, the Tianlong king directly rolled up the deputy captain Bai Lian with his tail, and then flew away. "Lord Dragon King, we haven't gotten on the bus yet." The other members of the group shouted anxiously and painfully. But the Dragon King turned a deaf ear to their shouts. In such an environment, the weak aliens could no longer exert their influence on the battlefield. They had helped the Dragon King approach the Mist Valley, and they were all poisoned. Bringing them would only be a burden. The Dragon King was the leader of the pirates, cruel and ruthless. Of course, useless subordinates would be ruthlessly abandoned by him. "Thank you for your contribution to the pirate group over the years." The Dragon King only left the sentence, and then flew away. The remaining pirates were so angry that they cursed. "Li Fengxian, you despicable bastard. We will go down and wait for you first. You will definitely die. You will definitely die. You will never get the source of God." But after the Dragon King and Bai Lian left, they could no longer resist the erosion of the disaster soldiers of Hellsister. Soon, accompanied by screams, these people were corroded by the poison into a pool of pus and blood. Hirsch looked at the Dragon King and Bai Lian, who were going away, without any intention to chase them. He calmly reported to the command center. 2 people escaped, the leader of the pirate group, Li Fengxian, and the deputy leader, Bai Lian. It is absolutely irrational to want to chase the flying dragon in the sky. Hearst is not that stupid, and he will not leave the ground, which is the most favorable environment for him. After hearing the report, General Horn frowned. This guy is not so easy to kill. Lieutenant Colonel Curdy next to him said, even if he is not a mutant trained by the military, he has a paper strength of 9,800 points of supernatural power index after all. If he wants to escape, it is really not so easy to kill him. Hearst is good at positional warfare, not pursuit warfare. General Horn took a lit cigar from the secretary next to him and took a deep puff. Then he said a little annoyed, I am afraid that this guy will become a hidden danger for us on the battlefield later. He was not worried about the cooperation between the Dragon King and the 2 major regions of Huaxiu, because the conflict between the Tianlong pirates and Huaxiu country is much greater than that with them. The Tianlong King took Bai Lian away from this area, and after a long time, they landed in a quiet area. After Bai Lian jumped from the Tianlong King's tail to the ground, his body couldn't help but half kneel down. His face was frighteningly pale, and he covered his mouth with his hands and coughed heavily. Soon black blood overflowed from his mouth. The Tianlong King changed back to human form. He took out a bottle of potion from his body and threw it to Bai Lian. Are you okay? Bai Lian opened the lid of the antidote and drank the potion. His face had a little more color, but his body still looked very weak. Bai Lian struggled to stand up and said to the Dragon King apologetically, I'm sorry, Lord Dragon King. I made you worry. The Dragon King snorted coldly, clenched his fists, and said with a cold look, Damn Columbia Navy, I did so many things for them in the past, but in the end I was stabbed in the back by them. It's all fake. In the end I am the most reliable. In this battle, almost all the elites of the Dragon Pirates died. However, the Dragon King was not too sad or regretful. Thinking back to the past, he was also an insignificant fisherman and gradually grew up to be the overlord of the Southeastern Sea. As long as he has enough strength, it won't take long for him to pull up a team that is not weaker than the past. After the end of the world, there are refugees everywhere, and a mouthful of food can gather a useful subordinate. As long as Bai Lian is still alive, it's fine. After Naruto died in the battle, he was the only captain-level combat force under the Dragon King. Such talents are not so easy to get. After Bai Lian swallowed the antidote, his body was temporarily fine. He coughed lightly and said to the Dragon King, Lord Dragon King, we can't go any further. The aliens from Columbia have appeared at the edge of the Foggy Valley, which means that the other major forces, if we continue to move forward, we will definitely encounter the enemy again. The Celestial Dragon King looked at Bai Lian. Although Bai Lian possessed powerful combat power in the Celestial Dragon Pirates, his most crucial role was to act as a white paper fan. He was very good at making plans. Back when the Celestial Dragon King had just become a pirate and was competing with the heroes of the South China Sea, he did not gain much advantage with only brute force. Once by accident, he met Bai Lian, who was almost starving to death at sea. Bai Lian was a southerner of Huaxiu country and was of the same origin as the Celestial Dragon King's ancestral home. Out of this affection, he saved Bai Lian. Unexpectedly, Bai Lian relied on his intelligence to help the Celestial Dragon King continue to expand his power. The Art of War by Sun Tzu was played to perfection in his hands relative to those pirates. Coupled with the scientific management knowledge learned from the internet, combined with the Celestial Dragon King's powerful combat power, the Celestial Dragon Pirates soon emerged as a dark horse and annexed dozens of surrounding pirate groups. Eventually, a situation was formed in the southeastern waters where the Celestial Dragon was king. Therefore, the Celestial Dragon King particularly respected Bai Lian's opinions. Bai Lian, what do you think? Bai Lian lowered his voice and said, We have no chance of winning against them head-on. We are at an absolute disadvantage in terms of intelligence system, weapons and equipment, or numbers. But we can wait. There was a vicious look in his eyes. Tian Long Wang became curious. Wait for what? Wait for them to fight each other. Bai Lian said firmly. They regard each other as their biggest competitors, and they don't really care about us. We might as well hide and wait for them to fight first. When they're almost done fighting, we will take action. This move is called the fisherman gains while the snipe and the clam fight. Chapter 998. Know how to disguise. After listening to Bai Lian's words, Tianlong nodded. The brief fight with Hellsister made him deeply feel the gap between him and the aliens of the big forces. His strength is not weak, but when fighting, the prerequisite gap is so big that he is tied up. If it was not one member of the Hell Chain who appeared in front of him today, but two, I am afraid that he would not be able to escape. Okay, I listen to you. Now we need to find a place to rest first. As an alien with a strong physique, Tianlong can use time to slowly excrete the toxins in his body. As for Bai Lian, even if he saved his life with the antidote, he would not be able to fight for a while. They have to lie dormant and wait for the battle between the major forces to break out. It is not difficult to detect. The top aliens of the major forces have reached the peak of the Delta level. And when such people fight, it will at least affect an area of tens of kilometers. Tianlong must feel that kind of fluctuation. It has been 3 days since Jang killed Vito Baldia. During these 3 days, he did not hunt again. He was lurking and observing the movements on the battlefield. After all, he killed a general of the Hell Chain. It was hard to guarantee that the Columbia Navy Command Center would not be furious and launch a large army to encircle Zhang Yi. So Zhang Yi found a deep basement, opened the two-world severance, and sealed himself, Hua and Lele in it, and lived for 3 days. During these 3 days, he did not feel the crisis of being searched and hunted. And Zhang Yi also recovered his vitality and raised his condition to the most perfect level. So, he decided to make another move to hunt the aliens of other joint forces. Zhang Yi reached out and touched Hua and Lele's heads. Let's go. 3 days is enough time for many things to happen outside. Let's go and join in the fun.
Meow.
Woof woof. Zhang Yi moved out from the underground with a cat and a dog. During the battle, he had basically touched the topographic map of this area. The principle is actually very simple. Although Qingdao cannot be located by satellite due to the influence of poisonous miasma and special magnetic field. However, the areas that were passed by artificial means can be mapped by the intelligence system. This is when the convenience of the space alien is reflected. He can quickly travel between the major areas, so now he has obtained the map of a large part of the area. After a simple check, Zhang Yi said with a meaningful tone, unconsciously, 10 days have passed. Now I think they are all close to the Fog Valley. Approaching the Fog Valley is not the end, but the beginning. Because everyone knows that everyone's ultimate goal is the source of the gods buried underground in the Fog Valley. It is not easy to find such an underground treasure in the huge Fog Valley. What's more, as the poison circle closes, the enemy will frequently appear around. Fighting has become an inevitable thing. Everyone must be more careful. Zhang Yi opened the dimensional door and said to Hua and Lele, let's go too. The fish began to gather, and the fishermen should also go out with guns. Zhang Yi led a cat and a dog forward, and soon arrived at the edge of the Fog Valley. He stopped and did not rush into the terrifying area over there. Instead, he asked Lele to scout ahead and see if there were any enemies nearby. Lele's nose was close to the ground, and he began to use his innate ability to capture the smell left in the air. After a while, Lele suddenly pricked up his ears, his eyes shone brightly, and stared in a certain direction. Boss, there are good things. Zhang Yi asked curiously. Oh, what are the good things? Lele turned his head to look at him, and due to excessive excitement, his big claws were digging the ground without moving. We have seen that kind of energy body before. Zhang Yi's eyes bloomed with a gleam of light. The companion of the source? That is indeed a real good thing. Since Zhang Yi encountered it, of course he would not miss it. But this time, he did not choose to take Hua and Lele with him. Instead, he said to Hua and Lele, you stay here and don't move. Hua looked at Zhang Yi in confusion. Although he didn't say anything, his eyes were a little surprised. Its owner was too stable. He didn't take it with him this time and acted alone? At this time, Jang had already opened the knot between the two worlds and began to change clothes. Huahua's eyes were straight when he saw the combat uniform on Zhang Yi. Master, why are you wearing the clothes of a Colombian alien? Zhang Yi said calmly, since you want to pursue excitement, then go all the way. That's right, he was wearing the combat uniform of Bardia. The people from the joint forces have already set their sights on me. As soon as I show up, they will quickly determine my identity based on my personal characteristics. Those who can't beat me will run away immediately, and those who can compete with me will immediately call for help. It's better to disguise myself so that they don't know my strength. A cat and a dog are the most obvious features around Zhang Yi. Apart from that, there is nothing else. Zhang Yi acted alone and changed his clothes. Even if others could tell that he was not a stranger from Colombia, they would not be able to figure out who he was in a short time. And this brief hesitation was enough for him to do many things. Lele immediately flattered. Boss is awesome. You are really too smart. Only Huahua was speechless and muttered in a low voice. Is it that serious? With your current strength, who on this island can threaten you? Zhang Yi heard this and just smiled slightly. Better safe than sorry. Just as Zhang Yi was preparing, Lele discovered the direction of the Source Elves. At this time, someone had already appeared here. Deep in the poisonous miasma, there was an area that was not surrounded by miasma. The misty moonlight here opened up a comfortable environment. More than a dozen Source Elves were sitting on the ground or lying on the wall of the ruins, enjoying the melodious melody, squinting their eyes and shaking their heads comfortably. In the middle of them, there was a large elf, the mysterious creature with white fur and antlers on its head. It held a tasting flute in its hand and played graceful music. But this peaceful scene did not last long. A man walked in from the mist. He had tasting hair, a black headscarf on his forehead, and a killer smoky makeup around his eyes. When he saw the elf in front of him, he showed an extremely exaggerated smile on his face. Ha ha ha, Source Elves, and there is a large one. Sure enough, when I came to the Fog Valley, even the NPCs who appeared became more advanced. Chapter 999 Medusa. The man with smoky makeup laughed unscrupulously, his body leaning back exaggeratedly. At this time, another person came out not far from him. This person had red hair and a narrow and simple samurai sword on his waist. Seeing the expression of the man with smoky makeup, he said coldly, "Dead otaku, put away your bad habits. It's dangerous to make loud noises here." The man with smoky makeup said somewhat dissatisfiedly, "I speak loudly because I am upright." The red-haired man shook his head helplessly. If it weren't for the fact that this guy was strong enough, he really didn't want to act with him. Now, while no one else has discovered it, put this thing away. The red-haired man stared at the creature that looked like a big dragon cat, and a touch of heat flashed in his eyes. The origin of this guy is equivalent to a high-level Delta-level alien. When the two people appeared, the elves did not make any move. But when they had evil thoughts, the song of the big dragon cat stopped immediately. The elves fled behind it in a panic. The big dragon cat's originally cute and adorable eyes suddenly became fierce. Ha! It opened its bloody mouth and let out a somewhat sharp roar. The white moonlight instantly swept in all directions, and the surging storm of supernatural power caused the thick poisonous miasma to roll back hundreds of meters. The red-haired man and the smoky makeup seemed to have been prepared. The two were not in a hurry, and powerful supernatural powers also emerged from their bodies, blocking the power of this layer of impact. The companion creatures of the Source of God are a very magical existence. They have extremely powerful life energy in their bodies. However, they can only rely on instinct to fight. This is why the smoky makeup man called them NPCs. You only need to see through their fighting methods, and you can use the method of entanglement to quickly kill them. Then you can get a sufficiently pure source of energy. That is a good thing that even captain-level aliens covet. But before the two of them took action, they felt a breath appearing from another direction. The eyes of the two suddenly became alert. They looked there and saw a slender figure slowly emerging from the thick, poisonous miasma. It was a tall woman with an amazing waist-to-hip ratio and bust that are unique to Western women. The two recognized her identity through her combat uniform. Among the members of Hell's Chain, there is only one female. Codename Medusa. Oh no, why is it hers? The red-haired man and the smoky makeup woman frowned when they saw the newcomer. It would be difficult for them to meet the members of Hell's Chain here, because this time they came to assist Hell's Chain. The two sides are allies, not enemies. Everyone has discovered the Source Elves, so it will be difficult for them to take it all alone. The mist behind Medusa was steaming, and a colorful, huge figure was looming. When she realized that there were other people here, she was ready for battle at the first time. Medusa, Judy Christina, Supernatural Index 9,600 points. Although her Supernatural Index is not high among the members of Hell's Chain, she has an advantage that others do not have. That is a supernatural beast partner, Blood-Spotted Snake King, with a supernatural index of 9,500 points. That's right, it's a highly venomous striped snake, not a python. Pythons are non-venomous and have no teeth, but the Blood-Spotted Snake King has the venom and fangs of a venomous snake, as well as the body of a giant python. With this poisonous pet, Christina's real combat power is on par with several upper-level members of the Hell Chain. Christina discovered the two people in front of her, and the command center immediately gave them information. These two people are from the alien unit, Takamagara of the Neon Pelican Group. The red-haired one is Amerasu, and the guy with dark circles under his eyes is Susanoo. Christina knew that these two people were from Neon and were allies, and a playful look appeared at the corner of her mouth. She twisted her body and walked to the side. On the one hand, she kept a safe enough distance from the two people in Takamagara, and on the other hand, she blocked the retreat of the big Totoro. What a coincidence, you also appeared in this place. As allies, I don't think we should fight for these source spirits, right? Amaterasu Okami Benimaru narrowed his eyes slightly. Of course, we are allies, and we shouldn't fight at this time. Susanoo, the sea-tide girl, said anxiously. We are here to help. Shouldn't the target of the Hell Chain be the source of God? Do you want to fight with us for such a small thing? Christina smiled contemptuously, and she crossed her arms to show her plump chest. Since it is a good thing, there is no reason to miss it. Moreover, the number of sacred source is limited, and not everyone has the opportunity to get it. General Horn can see all this in the command center. But the Allied side is not directly under their command. If you want to contact, you have to go through Neon. The person in charge will come to do it. General Horn thought about it and decided not to interfere in this matter. According to their agreement, except that the source of God must belong to the Colombian military, there is no clear agreement on other acquisitions. So the great god Hongwan and the sea-tide girl are fully qualified to get the source spirit. However, even if General Horn said nothing, on such a battlefield, they also need to take care of the face of the Colombian Navy. Christina smiled and said, Okay, since everyone has found it, then for the sake of fairness, let's divide it 50-50. Each party takes half. The great god Hongwan and the sea-tide girl frowned, obviously disagreeing with such a distribution. The great god Hongwan said lightly, There are 3 of us here. You took half, and let us share the other half. This is obviously unreasonable. If you ask me, it should be divided into 3 parts. Christina sneered, and the blood-spotted snake king behind her, which was more than 20 meters long, opened its mouth and spit out blood-red tongues. A hot breath instantly melted the ice on the ground, and the soil turned dark black. If you say so, how can my baby not be counted as one? Isn't that right, Miriam? She reached out and stroked the snake's head. The snake Miriam hissed and agreed with Christina's opinion. The faces of the great god Benimaru and the sea-tide girl were not good. Let their exotic pets share such good things like humans? This was a little hard for them to accept. But suddenly, the head of the Pelican organization in Neon said something to them. The faces of the great god Benimaru and the sea-tide girl changed slightly, but they also understood that they were not in the same league as the Colombian Navy. If they fell out, they would be the only ones to suffer. Chapter 1000 Great God Red Pill. The great god Hongwon made a compromise helplessly. Okay, we'll split these source spirits in half. The big dragon cat showed a ferocious look and warned these humans. But the three people didn't take it seriously at all. The three of them joined forces to deal with a creature made of source matter, which was easy. Hiss, hiss. At this time, the blood-spotted snake king beside Christina spit out his tongue and issued a warning. Christina listened attentively, and her eyes suddenly became playful. She crossed her arms and said to the great god Hongwon and the sea-tide girl with a smile, "Very good, let's divide it according to this plan. But before that, we have to clean up this place first." Someone came without being invited. The great god Hongwon and the sea-tide girl heard what Christina meant immediately. There are not only the three of them here. The blood-spotted snake king turned around, opened his mouth in one direction, and let out a piercing roar. A fishy wind blew out of its mouth, dispersing the large area of toxic miasma in front. A figure slowly emerged. When she saw the combat uniform, the relaxed smile on Christina's face immediately changed. Huh. Because the person who came was wearing the clothes of a member of the Hell Chain. She frowned and asked the command center, "You sent someone else here? Do you not trust me?" General Horn and others were also a little surprised by the scene in front of them. "No, you are the only one still around. That person is fake. He is not a member of the Hell Chain at all." Christina's eyes flashed with cold, murderous intent. Fake, right? On the battlefield, it is not strange for enemies to wear their clothes and lurk. It only needs to use the optical camouflage function to do it. So, in Christina's view, the other party's doing this is completely mocking her. Looking for death. Christina said coldly. The huge king snake wrapped around her opened its blood-red vertical pupils, feeling the murderous intent of its master, and it also exuded a sense of oppression from a ferocious beast. Deshun Hongwon and a Hai Chao Nu looked at each other. Deshun Hongwon's right hand pressed on the long sword, and both of them were ready to fight at any time. "What does this mean?" asked Okami Hongwon. Christina said disdainfully, "Can't you see? That's a fake." After that, she shouted at the man, "Hey, are you a foreigner from Huashu country? You're so sneaky pretending to be one of ours. You're so cunning." Jang didn't show any surprise after being discovered. He didn't expect to be able to fool these people with this outfit. It was enough to just hide his identity. With a glance, the identity information of the three people in front of him was basically obtained. Through the intelligence of Soul, Christina's features were too obvious, and the big snake showed her identity. As for Okami Hongwon, the red hair and the iconic samurai sword also made Jang recognize him. Amerasu, Medusa. As for the guy next to him, he should also be a member of Takamagara, so if I'm not mistaken, he is Susan. Jang narrowed his eyes. The ability index of these three people is very high. Medusa, Judy Christina, with a supernatural power index of 9,600 points, and with the assistance of her pet, the blood-spotted Snake King, her comprehensive combat power is even stronger. Amerasu, Okami Hongwon, with a supernatural power index of 9,600 points. Susanoo's Sea-Tide Woman, with a supernatural power index of 9,500 points. If it was a one-on-one, Jang would be sure to kill any one of the three. But now it was a one-on-three. The enemy was numerous and we were few. In this situation, Jang would never put himself in danger. He raised his hand with a smile and said, "Sorry, I seem to have gone to the wrong place. Bye." After that, Jang turned around quickly and ran towards the depths of the poisonous miasma. Zhang Yi's escape confirmed his identity as a foreigner from Huashu country. At present, there are 3 high-level foreigners on the joint forces. At this time, if he encounters a lone person from the other side, there is no reason to let him escape. What should I do? Okami Hongwon narrowed his eyes and looked at Christina. Please give us some advice, friend of Hell's Chain. Christina stuck out her tongue, which was scarlet and much longer than that of an average person. She licked her lips, which were also charmingly bright red. Of course we can't let him get away. How about this? I'll capture these source spirits here and you go hunt him down. The sea-tide girl snorted coldly. Don't take us for fools. If we go hunt down that alien, who can guarantee that you won't leave alone with the source spirits? Christina turned and looked at him. Oh? Then what are you going to do? As you said, if I go and hunt down that person, I will also worry that you will run away with the source spirits. Okami Hongwon narrowed his eyes. It's not that troublesome. Maybe we can solve it in a simple way. He stretched out his hand and pressed the Kunamitsu Chojo on his waist. That guy, I'll go after him. You stay to capture the source spirits. But I want to take an extra 10% of the divided source spirit share. Christina took a deep look at Okami Hongwon. Amaterasu Okami Hongwon, the so-called #1 master in the field of neon aliens. Although he only has an ability index of 9,600 points. But on the Neon Island, which is divided into 2 factions and has been fighting endlessly, it is enough to dominate. Christina nodded and said with a smile, Since you said so, of course I have to give you a face. Let's do as you say. They couldn't argue too much here. Otherwise, the person who escaped might have gone far away completely. If he attracted more enemies, even the 3 of them would have a headache. Okay, I'll go. The great god Hongwon said to the sea-tide girl, Watch her. Then he held Guoguang Chongzong with his left hand, stepped hard on the ground with his legs, and chased in the direction of Zhang Yi's escape at lightning speed. Zhang Yi ran very fast, but he stirred the air and made the poisonous miasma roll violently. This was like a signpost, pointing the way for the great god Hongwon. The great god Hongwon held the hilt of the knife, his eyes focused and sharp. As the Menkyo Kaiden of the Shenlong Wuxing style, his sword-drawing speed was extremely fast. Especially his eye slash, which was so fast that it could deceive the eyes. Hold your heart, calm your breath, and concentrate. Any movement around will be captured by him. He is not worried that the person who escaped in front will have any conspiracy. Because within such a distance, close combat, he has never encountered an opponent. Except for the guys from the God Pillar, no one can stop him from slashing out of the sheath. Chapter 1001 I am Deng Shintong. Zhang Yi's escape speed was not fast, and he himself was not a person known for his physical strength. It was only a few seconds later that the great god Hongwon caught up with him. Flash. The great god Hongwon jumped high, staring at Zhang Yi's neck with cold and focused eyes. The Guoguang Chongzong in his hand was like a silver bottle suddenly broken, and a dazzling white light burst out. This knife was so fast that it was invisible to the naked eye, and it had become a kind of light. Pop! A faint ripple appeared in the air. The great god Hongwon and Zhang Yi passed by sideways and fell to the ground. He glanced at the long knife in his hand, and there was no trace of blood on it. He nodded with satisfaction, and then skillfully sheathed the knife. His knife was so fast that the person who was killed didn't even notice it, and he was already dead. It was so fast that there was no trace of blood left on the blade. It's too weak. It doesn't look like a high-level person from Huashu country, maybe just a member of the reconnaissance unit. The great god Hongwon turned his head and wanted to see the scene of the body slowly falling. But when he turned around, the man in front of him disappeared. What? Dashin Hongwon's pupils shrank slightly. Impossible. The knife had clearly been slashed out, and the other party definitely did not dodge. But why is there no body? Oh, it looks like a strange person with some abilities. He clenched the knife in his hand, and the deep poison miasma was shaking again. Dashin Hongwon vaguely saw the figure just now, running away. I really don't know what tricks you are playing. Dashin Hongwon had a cold smile on his lips. Because of Zhang Yi's behavior, he had a kind of evil interest. Do you want to live so much? Then let me destroy your hope. As for me, I like to see those people struggling to survive and finally being killed by me helpless and desperate. He was not afraid of any conspiracy or tricks from the other party. Because in the face of absolute strength, all conspiracies and tricks are meaningless. As the strongest man in Neon, there are only a handful of people in the entire Star Island who can kill him. Even if he encounters the Hell Chain or the top existence among the 4 spirits and cannot defeat them, he still has a chance to escape. Judging from the performance of this person at the beginning, it is impossible for him to be a top master. A real strong man will not hide secretly, let alone escape at the first time he is discovered. The great god Hongwon crouched down, held down Guguang Chongzong with his right hand, stomped his right foot on the ground, and chased after him like an arrow. But this time, it was not so simple for him to chase Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi activated the 30-fold space acceleration, which increased his speed to an extremely fast level. The great god Hongwon chased after him, and he was unwilling to give up a reward point. There is a bounty list on the Columbia Navy side. From the fleet captain, the investigation captain, to the deputy captain, and even the ordinary team members, they are all clearly marked. He will not let go of the fat meat in his hands. I hope you are a captain-level alien so that I can get more rewards, the great god Hongwon thought excitedly during the chase. The chase between the two did not take long. After a few minutes, they ran dozens of kilometers. Zhang Yi's footsteps suddenly stopped in the ruins. Dashin Hongwon stood behind him and sneered. What? Can't you run anymore? No matter where you run today, I will take off your head with my own hands. There was a playful look in his eyes, as if a cat encountered a mouse that was running for its life. From his breath, it can be seen that he still has some strength to spare. Yes, he really enjoys the pleasure of playing with and ravaging the prey while it is desperately running away. Zhang Yi turned around and faced Dashin Hongwon. Is it possible that you are alone? And I deliberately led you here, Zhang Yi said calmly. His right hand took out a long sword made of adamantium. Seeing this, Dashin Hongwon's smile became even stronger. You want to compete with me in swordsmanship? Very good, haha. He laughed loudly, but his eyes never left Zhang Yi for a moment. After laughing enough, he narrowed his eyes and said in a joking tone, How do you know that I was not led here by you on purpose? Although the source elves are delicious, but the reward for killing a captain-level alien is also very expensive. I don't want to share it with others. Zhang Yi pointed the long sword in his hand at the head of the great god Hongwon. You are too arrogant. If you knew who I was, I believe you would not have the courage to talk to me like this. The great god Hongwon looked at Zhang Yi with interest. Then who are you? Zhang Yi laughed, haha, and then this. The laughter was getting louder and louder. Listen up, despicable neon dwarf. I am the immortal star of hope in Jiangnan district, the eternal glory of Huashu country, and the most amazing genius in Blizzard City. Captain of the god team, Deng Shintong. Great god Hongwon was slightly startled. Deng Shintong. He had heard of this name. Before, the Ronin organization, Erosion Moon, landed in Jiangnan district. It is said that a captain in Jiangnan district was defeated, named Deng Shintong. He also followed this mission, but his strength was not prominent among many aliens. Great god Hongwon's eyes revealed a look of contempt. So, it's a little punk. He finished speaking and immediately drew his sword. People are very fast, and the speed of the sword is even faster. He crossed the distance of more than 10 meters away in an instant. The knife flashed, and the space in front of him was distorted. He watched his knife cut into the void, and the person in front of him disappeared in an instant. The next moment, a crack appeared on his back. A black flame, like a half-moon, chopped down fiercely at his back. The great god Hongwon only felt a chill on his back. His sword had already been unsheathed, and he could not quickly turn around and counterattack. But as a master of kendo and a master of practical combat, he instantly pulled out the scabbard to resist. Boom! The dark void power slammed fiercely on his scabbard, bursting out with a mighty force that soared to the sky. Although the great god Hongwon blocked the attack, he was caught off guard and was still knocked hundreds of meters away. This power, you are not Deng Shintong's. The great god Hongwon reacted instantly and roared angrily. Angry because he was deceived. When Zhang Yi introduced himself, he believed that Zhang Yi was Deng Shintong. Because in his opinion, masters disdain to conceal their identities. Either don't say it, or introduce yourself. How can someone be so shameless and say that he is someone else's? If you want to blame someone, You can only blame him for meeting Jang too late. Otherwise, he would have learned his lesson long ago. Yeah. Dear viewers, we have crossed 1,000 episodes first. Thanks for all of your support. Love from heart.